And to us, there we go. All right, folks, welcome back to The Average, where the real review happens with your friends. Today, we're tackling a heavy hitter, Martin Scorsese's 1990 masterpiece, Goodfellas.
That's right. One of the most iconic mob movies of all time. It's the film that turned Joe Pesci into a household name for his unhinged performance and solidified Ray Liotta as a legend.
And if you're here, you know the drill. We break down each movie with our unique scoring system, diving into everything from acting and directing to music, impact, and more. If you're new here, check out our Instagram for a scoring card so you can follow along and give Goodfellas your own rating.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you think this movie is an untouchable classic or maybe a little overrated, drop your scores in the comments and let's keep the debate going.
We're not doing this one alone either. We got a special guest with us today, our buddy Steven from After Hours Video, a guy who knows his way around a movie breakdown.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Thank you so much for having me on this episode. I'm super stoked to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I met Steven doing an episode of Beyond the Blood podcast with a mutual buddy, Bearded Film Guy on Instagram. We're all going to be part of Plugging It Now, the Dread broadcast coming at the end of the month.
Very exciting.
Yes, so keep your eyes out for that horror news recap of the month. I am so excited for that. But back to Goodfellas. Jonathan.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and let's talk about one of the greatest crime dramas ever made.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't already. And before we get too deep into our scores, let's lay a little groundwork. Goodfellas dropped in 1990, directed by the legend himself, Martin Scorsese. It's based on the book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, which tells the true story of Henry Hill and his life in the mob.
Yeah, Pileggi co-wrote the screenplay with Scorsese, and the two of them worked closely to keep the film as authentic as possible. In fact, Henry Hill served as a consultant for the movie, providing first-hand details that made the film feel so real.
And the cast is stacked. We have Ray Liotta as Henry Hill, Robert De Niro as Jimmy Conway, and of course, Joe Pesci as the Wet Bandit, Tommy DeVito. Pesci's performance earned him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and rightfully so. The guy is unhinged in this role.
Yeah, that funny house scene, completely unscripted. Pesci came up with the idea based on a real interaction he had with a made guy. Scorsese just let the cameras roll, and the other actors had no idea how it play out.
And that improvisational style is all over this movie. Scorsese encouraged the cast to ad-lib, which gives the dialogue that raw, unpredictable edge. It's part of what makes Goodfellas feel so alive. It's not just a script being read, it is a world being lived in.
And it's a brutal world at that. The violence in this movie is intense, but it's also strangely beautiful. Scorsese uses slow motion, freeze frames, and that incredible tracking shot through the Copacabana to pull you into Henry's life.
And that Coco Cabana shot, one of the most talked about long takes in film history. A 3-minute single shot that follows Henry and Karen from the street through the kitchen and into the club, capturing the allure of mob lifestyle in one fluid move. And I'll be talking about that shot more later.
And let's not forget about the music. Scorsese curated the soundtrack himself, using everything from Tony Bennett to the Rolling Stones. The music in Goodfellas isn't just background noise, it's a critical part of the storytelling.
Exactly. He uses songs to reflect the changing moods and eras as Henry's life spirals out of control. Layla's piano outro over the montage of bodies being discovered, perfection.
Oh, yeah. And you can't talk about this movie without mentioning the editing by Thelma Schoonmaker. She's Scorsese's longtime editor and one of the best in the business. She perfectly captures the chaos and energy of the mob lifestyle.
All right. So we've got a lot to cover now that we just told you how great this movie is. So from the rise and fall of Henry Hill to some of the wild behind-the-scenes stories that make this film a classic.
If you're listening along, grab your scorecard, drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's see if Goodfellas really is the masterpiece everyone claims it to be.
All right. So we start off our scores with story. How do we feel about the story? So, Stephen, we do this as just an open conversation. We drop our score at the end before we move on to the next category.
Okay. Um, so basically, I hold this movie in probably the highest regard when it comes to just across the board. So for me, first time watching this film, I felt like you're in the passenger seat for like how seductive this lifestyle can be. And I feel like in a way, it basically drags us through essentially what Henry Hill's going through during the course of the entire runtime. And I had never experienced anything like it. It was kind of my gateway into a lot of these like crime, essentially these crime films and Martin Scorsese, uh, and was basically my gateway into eventually getting into The Sopranos at a later point.
Yeah, I can definitely see how this movie is a gateway. I have gone through mob phases in film. It really started with Boardwalk Empire on
Mm,
HBO way back when, because I love that time period. I loved why can't I think of it? Buscemi, loved him.
yep.
So I was drawn into that. You're probably gonna leave the stream if you're watching right now. I never really cared much for The Godfather.
Oh,
Wasn't
no way.
it
What
was
the
not
hell?
my cup of tea. No, and that's probably because
Bro.
I watched it a long time ago. I probably need to go back and give it a rewatch now. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do. Road to Perdition is one that I remember vividly, based on a comic by Max Allan Collins. Fantastic. But I can see this movie, the big hook for me that I loved, and I learned this after I came into this. I'm the newbie here. I have never seen Goodfellas, but it was always one. It's Scorsese, who I've seen multiple of his films, mostly ones like The Aviator and Wolf on Wall Street and Shutter Island. I've seen a lot of the newer stuff, and I need to go back and see the older stuff. But this is one that I'd always wanted to see, and I'm very glad I did. But what hooks me on this is the true story, that it is based on a true story. And I went in and I was like, okay, we see all the time movies based on true stories. The Strangers is based on a true story. That true story is very different than the final film. So I wanted to know, how true is what's happening in the movie? And surprisingly, it's like 80 to 90% the way it happened. It's very accurate. So there's some stylistic changes made for the purpose of story, moving the story along for film. But outside of that, it's an extremely accurate story to what happened in real life. I think that is a major hook for this film, in all honesty. I love that about this one.
Exactly. The fact that it's based on a true story makes it all the more impressive and awesome in everything that we see and hear throughout the whole film.
I swear it's I mean, I know that there was like a few things that they omitted it for the sake of like, I think allowing for the story to be able to breathe, but how was it for you first time watch? Was it what you were expecting then or
It was not at all what I was expecting first
okay.
time watch. I was jarred. I messaged you about it actually because I spent this week at a training thing for work, and my goal was the first night. I was like, okay, we have a team dinner after the training. I'm gonna go back to the hotel room, put this on, and relax. And I was so tired, I fell asleep, and it wasn't because the movie bored me. It's because it wasn't what I expected. I think I expected it to be far more intense than it was. And that's not to say the movie's not tense, what's happening isn't dramatic. It really, this kind of falls into the direction category later. It gave me Quentin Tarantino Pulp Fiction-esque vibes in the way it tells the story. Not non-linear, but kind of the way it's narrated, the way it's shot, like some quick cuts, almost with this dark edge humor
Mhm.
along with the story, was completely unexpected. I think I expected The Godfather, and it wasn't. So I was a little surprised by that, and pleasantly so. So
It feels like, because I know you were talking about The Godfather, it feels like a more like accurate take on what that life would be like compared to The Godfather. The Godfather, I feel like, is very, as much as I love those movies, are very romanticized, and this feels like, it kind of shows like the glamorous parts of it and like the not so great aspects about that type of life.
oh, absolutely. Uh, that was the one thing that stood out in this watching is that by the end of this movie, I was stressed for him and going, I would not want to live this life. Constantly wondering if I'm the next one going to get whacked.
Mm-hmm.
Not for me.
No,
Not for me. I'm like, how do you live like this and think this is a great life? I'm like, man,
constantly looking over your shoulder basically your entire life, you know?
yeah, that's no fun.
That sense
No
of
fun.
paranoia after you kind of messed up, say the wrong thing to the wrong person,
Mm-hmm.
that slip here or there, it could be the end of you.
Yeah,
And that's that, and then they find you in a dumpster somewhere or who knows where. It can be very scary. And then not just that, but like through most of the film, you've got Henry doing the narration, but every once in a while you've got Karen with her little bits in there and getting
that surprised me.
her angle of things as a wife and a mother dealing with all this crazy stuff going on. I mean, it got to be terrifying for her. Absolutely, we're fearing for her and her kids and what's going on with like this type of lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It goes into script, but that scene when she's narrating and he beats the guy across the street,
Oh, I
and
love
Yeah.
that scene so much.
it's a great scene. But when he hands her the gun and she is narrating and goes, most girls, when being asked to hide a gun by a man, would leave right then. And she's like, I was kind of turned on. I was like,
Yep.
all right, all right. But that was
Yeah.
an interesting perspective to hear. Like, she is aware that what she's getting into is unpredictable and violent.
Well, she's
And
bought in at that point, you
yep,
know?
that's what
Oh
she's
yeah.
there for. She's turned on a little bit by those events. So I was surprised by the story. I love how interesting it is as a almost biographical film. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely close to the real life events. Uh, Even I don't want to get into it because that talks about the performance as well. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. So story for me, big plus to it being very true to life. I'm a 5 on this story.
I'm feeling the same way, man. Like the portrayal of everything from him as a kid when he first gets his start into it to the very end, once he's finally out of it and living that schmuck life he so despised all those years,
Yep.
man, it's fantastic. I'm 5 all day on it.
I would have to agree with you guys because as long as the runtime to this movie is, I can easily just sit down and watch this and kill probably about like close to like 3 hours, and it doesn't feel like it because it feels like the script is super engaging. Um, you're there's really no dull moments in the film, and then by the end of it, it's basically you've got those anxiety waves as you're trying to like figure out where the conclusion's going to come and how things are going to wrap up eventually. But I'd have to give it a 5 out of 5.
So you mentioned the conclusion, and that's why I almost gave it a 4, in all honesty, is because I was waiting for some kind of dramatic big event to be the conclusion to this film. And then it just kind of ends. And that surprised me. I was expecting something a little more violent, more jarring, but that it did shock me a little bit the first time. I was like, oh, okay, okay. It's a nice ending. I get it. The real life, it entering witness protection, which is fun because this movie, I believe it was him. It might have been the character De Niro played, but the witness protection ended because of this movie.
Oh, really?
The guy could not stay quiet. He could not keep to himself and was getting out in public, and they're finally like, we can't keep you secret anymore. Your witness protection is over.
He was very outspoken,
Yes.
kind of like almost to a fault. I know that I feel like that got him in some hot water Especially after I think he definitely took full advantage of all the attention he got from as a result of this movie.
Oh, they said that it was the only way he could make money after his past and the witness protection. The only way he could make money as himself was to basically merchandise his story.
Yep.
And so he made money, and I don't blame him at all. But it's also I was watching an interview, and the commentator kind of said afterwards, like, I kind of understand why he descended into alcoholism, having to relive the worst things he's ever experienced over and over and over again
Hmm.
to tell his story. So it's kind of profound in a way and tragic, and I think that adds to this movie because, like we talked about earlier, I don't think this movie romanticizes the life quite as much as The Godfather does.
No, not at all.
I
It's
think this movie shows how anxiety inducing this life is.
well, it's very unpredictable, and I mean, it's like what we were talking about earlier is that you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror, to see like what could be coming, either like coming at you or what type of problems could arise. But I mean, I can't imagine after watching this movie, I don't know how many people would be, out there wanting to indulge in this lifestyle.
I watched this and said, nope, not for me. Please keep me.
Maybe the earlier part of it, like where Henry's a kid, kind of working the cab
Yeah,
angle
Definitely.
thing. That's something that a lot of young people will probably get into because that lack of having to maintain the regular standard of life by going to school and doing all this other stuff and doing regular jobs. That maybe will be seen a little more romanticized
for
for people.
sure.
But once you really get into that gangster lifestyle, then that's where it kind of like, okay, this is not so great. I'm scared out of my fucking mind.
Yeah, it's definitely there's I think by the end of it, I mean you've just seen like so much tragedy that's happened by the time everything's all said and done. But I wanted to point out, I don't know if you guys caught the reference. You guys were talking about the very end of it, and in that closing shot, after he talks about like how he is going to live like live life basically like a schmuck. Um, they kind of pay that homage to the Great Train Robbery
Yes.
with Joe Pesci's character shooting at the screen, and I known about that because I had taken a film class, like right around that time. So I was like, hey, it's like that. Was it Leonardo DiCaprio where he's getting up in his chair, he's pointing at the TV screen. It's kind of like one of those moments. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep. Yep. There's a lot of great stuff in this film. So onto the characters. So we kind of covered it in the story, because it's about this guy's life. It is his life story from beginning to end. Henry Hill. Not beginning. We don't see the birth. That doesn't matter. But we do see the kid. And one of the interesting things I was watching after this, because I was curious about this movie, made me curious about the true story, which is a plus to this movie. I like that about it. He wanted, and this isn't in the movie, they don't really touch on this. He wanted out of the gangster life by 16. He had
Mm,
already kind of seen enough and was uh, kind of like, I don't want to keep doing this. So he enlisted in the Air Force, I believe. Enlisted in the Air Force. And that's the movie picks up when he comes back. And so while he was in the Air Force, he got in trouble for drugs and things like that. But when he came back, he slipped right back into that old life because it was comfortable, easy. He
yeah.
could make money doing it, and he slipped
Connected.
right back into it. But this movie doesn't really talk about that. Like, he had seen so much by the time he was 16 that he enlisted in the Air Force to escape it.
It's very seductive, like for the lifestyle as a whole, or I
Yeah,
mean, at least they portray it that way.
it definitely. I thought they definitely do. I never really got the impression watching it that he wanted out.
No.
No,
So even with the paranoia of the FBI, thinking that every helicopter that flies over is the FBI, I never got the impression that he was like, man, I regret this life. I want out of this life. It's like, hey, this is the consequences of this life. I'm living with it. And as far as I typically judge on character arc, I think this movie has a full character arc from romanticizing and glamorizing as a kid. Like, this is awesome. I'm making so much money at 13. Like, heck yeah. To the end, becoming the very thing he hated, as he says. You know, that is not something you come to easily. It's not something you come to lightly. It was a journey for him to discover that, hey, this is where I'm going to land. This is what's best.
Well,
So,
he's hit the highest highs, you know, like you've lived it all and done it all, and then for you to basically drop back down to reality, like most of us, it's like, you know, obviously he's in witness protection, but he doesn't have access to all these glamorous things about that lifestyle. I mean, it's you're basically stripped of everything, and then you end up alone, you know.
mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
John.
With the arc in this man, it's not just him, it's not just Henry, but like the arc of what you see happen to the other people around him as well.
Yep.
Um, you know, from like with Henry and his Sicilian Irish roots between his mom and dad, you know, he connects in different levels. Like with Jimmy Conway, um, played by De Niro, him being an Irishman, you know, he gets in good with him because they've got that sense of, you know, connection there. And then
Hmm.
Tommy being on the Sicilian side, you know, and how they become that kind of trio that's always doing stuff together, you know, and how tight knit they become, and how you see them kind of get worse and worse and worse until their end. First, you know, Tommy's just a punk kid who's a little on the wild side, but then you see
Hmm.
him just get just more vicious, you know, and then
Mm,
Henry seeing this, realizing, you know, because like by the time Henry's in his 20s and like early 20s in this film, he's like at his peak of awesomeness and enjoying things and how wonderful it is. But then as it goes on past that, you know, you start to see like, man, these dudes they're really twisted and they're really letting it get to them.
Yep.
Like with how Tommy's fucking around and he shoots that kid Spider in the foot, and then eventually later, you know, a little later on in the film, ends up killing the guy, you
yeah.
know, in his rage, you know, just unbridled, just careless thoughtlessness, and just bam, bam, bam,
Yep.
and then brushes it off like it's nothing, you know, and then finally seeing him meet his end after what you see them do with bats at the beginning, you know, and how he gets his comeuppance on that, you know, there's arc in that, and then Jimmy Conway and his paranoia and how he starts getting rid of everybody after that big heist, you know, just to make sure there's no loose ends, more money for himself, and eventually getting taken out. It's crazy, man.
Well,
And oh, it's rough.
it definitely serves as like you kind of those specific events that happen throughout the movie. I feel like it serves as reminders that at the end of the day, as glamorous as they make it out to be, I mean these real life individuals are like psychopaths essentially. So you know, it just kind of you know strips it back down to reality that these are the people that you would not want to get, you know, be affiliated with, or they've done obviously some terrible things, and you know, respectively to each of these characters, they unfortunately have to pay the consequences by the end of the movie, or even post the movie.
Right.
That's the thing. You said they're kind of like psychopaths, and I think that's one of the things this movie does extremely well. I'm terrible with names, and there's a lot of like Jimmy, Joey, whatever names in this movie.
Peter's,
So
Paul's, Mary's.
Yeah,
yeah,
yep, yep.
it's hopeless for me to remember all these names. But there's one scene where Hill is trying to get money, and the guy just like comes up and starts choking him out. And it's like, you go pay, you go, and I'm just like, flip of a switch. This guy is terrorizing this man to get his money. And
Maury, the wig man.
Yeah. The wigs
this
that never
movie
come off.
this movie does such a good job of showing those like instant flips to violence. One of the best examples of this for these characters is the pre pre fame Samuel L. Jackson scene.
Yep.
Stacks. Yeah.
That scene was one where I was like, it's done so well that it's casual, it's chill, but I'm sitting there my first time, like, this isn't gonna go well. This isn't gonna go well. And sure enough, boom, it still shocked the crap out of me. Not having seen it before, I was like, oh,
Yep.
Whoa. And just so violent, so sudden, and humor, that dark sense of humor. So I find this movie very funny because I have a very dark sense of humor the whole time. I think Joe Pesci in this movie is absolutely hilarious in almost every scene, and it's probably bad, but I think it's very funny. I also we'll get to that funny scene on script, but yeah, like you mentioned, these characters are kind of psychopaths, and this movie does a great job of saying it's the littlest thing where they just snap and that's it. It's over. The violence has happened, and we're now dealing with it.
I just one thing I just wanted to point out is during that scene with Samuel L. Jackson when they're like at his place, and then Frankie Carbone, he like isn't sure what to do with the coffee
Oh
or
God.
whatever, and
Yep.
it's just like
Type
it's so
stuff.
awkward. I was like, they're just so casual about it. I think that
That's
that's
what I'm
like,
dying.
yep,
It's
that's like
so funny. It's
the
so funny.
the
Take it to
crazy
go.
part.
I wasn't
Yeah,
serious.
Put it
yeah,
down. Come on.
yeah. Listen, I if I were in his shoes, I would have taken the coffee to go. But
Oh,
what do I know?
Yeah.
whatever Pesci says is happening. I am doing it. I love. I've seen things on, I don't know if it was Reddit, some internet crap hole, where I saw like Joe Joe Pesci's character in Home Alone is actually his character from this movie. He survived the gunshot the gunshot wound to the head, but it did some damage, and now he's just a wet bandit in Home Alone. So that's
The Goodfellas cinematic universe.
yeah, the
Oh,
Goodfellas cinematic universe leads to Joe Pesci just robbing Kevin McAllister's house. The bullet did some damage. That's why he like I it works. I
I would
want to
believe it.
I want to see the Home Alone cut where we take Joe Pesci's dialogue from Goodfellas and put it on top of the Home Alone film,
oh God.
because most of the time he's not saying real lines in Home Alone. He's just swearing under his breath, and that's what makes it so good. But characters in this film, I'm a 4 on characters. I'm a 4.
Agreed. I'm a 4 as well.
I feel like I'm like just completely favoriting this movie. It's 5 for me just
It's okay.
because they're just they're so memorable. Like I think it's I couldn't picture anyone else with their performances for this film. You see a lot of character or well actors and actresses that eventually went to star in Goodfellas or from Goodfellas into The Sopranos, and I think it's cool to see those nods in various scenes, but uh, yeah, definitely kept me engaged the entire time I was watching this film. It's hence the reason why I come back to it so often.
Yeah, definitely. I think um I think this is one where the more time I spend with the film, repeated watches would help me appreciate those characters a little bit more. Having only seen it 2 times, uh, there's still a lot of names and a lot of people that I'm not sure exactly how they play out throughout the movie, just because I'm terrible with large casts of everything. I'm terrible at names, terrible at large casts. But I definitely think with the repeated watches, I could start to pick up those intricacies on how these characters play together for sure. So, on to the next category, we have the music and sound design. This one,
Ooh,
this one.
Such a
Okay.
good category.
Both of you had sound effects to go with the music and sound design. So who's kicking it off?
Go for it, Steven.
okay. It's I think the soundtrack probably is my favorite thing about this film. It just feels so methodical the way that Martin Scorsese picked this, or if maybe it was just him or I don't know if there's anyone else involved, but the way they picked out these songs for each key scene, it puts it
Mhm.
over the edge because I just feel like it enhances each scene, brings it to life, and again, I think it just paints the picture like this life is so glamorous and just I don't know. I just feel like each scene tries to like sweep you off your feet, to get you to come around to it. But the music is top tier.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack on this, man, because it's not just an accent. It's not just a background thing that just kind of blends like to tone. It really sets a lot, between like Tony Bennett, Cadillac, Chantel's, Shangri-La's, Aretha Franklin, Cream,
Hmm.
so much more. Like there's so much good music in this film that you can't help but not appreciate it.
Oh, I 100% agree. The other thing that I noticed is I don't think there's composed music in this movie.
Um, don't
I,
think so.
I, I don't believe there is. I
I
think,
think it is all licensed tracks.
Yeah, looks like that. Yeah.
And
We got some
that
George
is,
Harrison, Rolling Stones in there. Some Sid Vicious from with his very version of "My Way." I thought it was super awesome.
yeah.
I always love hearing that at the end of the movie.
I love how we get this incredible jazzy, kind of like what I associate with mob movies, to be honest. Jazzy swing crooners, Tony Bennett, the Cleftones, Otis Williams, all of that at the beginning. And then as time in the film progresses, we're getting time appropriate progressions in music
Hmm.
as well, which is just genius to me. I also really love the Frankie Valli name drop in the film. I, I Frankie Valli is great. I don't care what anybody says. He's awesome. Um, Aretha Franklin in there, Rolling Stones, couple songs by the Rolling Stones run
It's
out.
like that's very key in a lot of Martin Scorsese's films. Like you pick up on that he uses a lot of the Rolling Stones songs throughout his films. So um, I thought it was just initially for this film, and it's just like a recurring theme that he has in his movies.
It's his thing. He likes it. But yeah, I was impressed, and this is one where I'm pretty sure. I love when they do this. I love when any movie does this. Tarantino does this a lot. Scorsese does this a lot in this film, but where shocking violence is accompanied with whimsical, lighthearted music, and that happens in this, and it makes it easier to digest what's happening on screen, and it's also a little bit more horrifying at the same time. Like it doesn't go down quite as hard, but you're like, wow, that's brutal. This song is really peaceful, and it creates a reaction in you, and I love that about this film. I think he does that really, really well throughout. I'm trying to think, um, like exactly when. I'm trying to think of exactly.
For like when they're using the music to like kind of counter the like violence, because I one of the scenes
Yes.
that comes to mind is right smack dab right at the beginning where they're playing Tony Bennett's Rags to Riches right after they get done stabbing Billy Bats in the back of the trunk,
Yep. Yep.
and it's like we'd even have an opportunity to let that try to like settle in. It's just you're like basically going from that horrific incident that just happened, and then boom, you're getting hit with the title card.
Yes. Yeah. We get a. I can't pronounce that. It's Italian. Giuseppe Di Stefano is second time he's played when Tommy kills Spider. That just a couple times that happens. The same song by Giuseppe is played earlier when I think Giuseppe Di Stefano. I'm really bad at this.
You're doing good.
I'm not that great at pronunciations. The same song also plays when young Henry gets pinched for selling cigarettes at the beginning,
Oh,
but
yep.
used a couple times throughout. But I'm a sucker for that. One of my favorite musical like companion accompaniment scenes is in any movie, and it's ridiculous. Uh, the music that pairs with Shoshana's death in Inglorious Bastards.
Oh, yep.
That is the perfect example of shocking, sudden violence and just beautiful music that doesn't fit the scene, but yet somehow does. That's one of my favorites. But this movie is filled with scenes like that. And that's why I say this movie, like the choices made in this movie kind of give me that. When I say Pulp Fiction, I don't mean Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. I mean the genre Pulp Fiction vibe to the whole thing. It gives
Well,
it this punk rock Pulp Fiction esque vibe to this story.
I feel like you were talking about Quentin Tarantino, and he's another director that I just feel like is like so honed in on song choices that it like even in Reservoir Dogs where he's cutting the police officer's ear off, and
Oh,
it's just a complete contrast to the song that's being played. It's obviously something so so terrible that's happening to this guy, but then you get something that's like a little bit more lighthearted, and it just I think that's I think why I like these directors so much is because they have such like top tier song choices.
I agree. I think it definitely adds a layer of intention to what they are doing. And I think it's incredibly difficult to go through the process of picking a song that's going to fit this. It's one thing to have John Williams compose something incredible to go with it. That's
Hmm.
one thing. That's hard. That's amazing. It's another thing to go through a catalog of thousands of songs and be like, yeah, I think this is the one. I think this is the one.
I will say, kind of jumping off of that, where they go into, I believe it's a scene where they go into the Copacabana, and they play the song by the Crystals, "And He Kissed Me." It's
mm-hmm.
it's like
Mhm.
perfection. It's
Yes.
just it sets the stage for not only such for one of my favorite scenes in any movie for that matter, but it just elevates it that much more with how I don't know what it is about the song. It's like I couldn't picture anything else being played in the background when that scene's taking place.
No,
Yeah.
it's a great choice.
Yeah, like same with the hostess party when Karen's like looking at everybody and realizing what's going on and how tight knit everything is, and there's
Hmm.
no outsiders, and they're playing "Leader of the Pack" by the Shangri-Las.
Yep.
That man, like they really had a really great way of like setting scenes with the music as they're like going through all this.
So, song choices, music for me, as well as the sound design. So, also talking about how the movie sounds without music, it's great in this film. It is well rounded all the way across. It sounds very real to me. One of the
Hmm.
things I really like too, and maybe it's ridiculous. I love that throughout the 80s, even into the 90s, a lot of times fighting, punching, we got those heavy for punches. This movie doesn't feel like that. This movie feels a lot more grounded, a lot more realistic in that area.
Hmm.
So it's a 5 across the board for the music and sound design for me.
I went with a 4. Fives is nothing's ever perfect for me, so I had to hit 4.
I think I'm the odd one out then.
The,
I
the,
I love the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack so much. I guess I'm partial to this movie for sure, but I promise if we review another movie, I won't be so kind.
I would listen to this soundtrack just
Yep,
on its own.
100%.
My
For
wife,
sure.
I was watching it again today, and my wife was in the other room just getting things together, and the soundtrack pulled her in. Like she could hear the variety of songs, and she loves 50s and 60s music. And a lot of those songs, she was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Goodfellas," and she's like, "Oh." But the music is so good. So on to editing, special effects.
Man,
Any
all the blood,
particular things stand out to you on this one? What?
all the bloods, like the splatters, the effects of it, like bats in the car, how messed up he looks.
Hmm.
Stacks after they shoot him and the blood spray everywhere. Man, like the vicious, like even when Henry, picks up Karen after that jackass from across the street, kicks her out of the car,
Oh my
and
god!
comes
It's
up and just starts fucking pistol whipping the shit out of him.
I-
On my mother, you ever touch her again? Just
yeah.
everything going on, man. I love all that. And then with how he looks when he's all coked up on
Mhm.
powder, man, and he's all paranoid and like driving that day of trying to like get his brother, set up the dinner,
They're
coordinate the
they're
deal.
making the sauce.
Yeah, sauce and the Philly connection and paranoia of the helicopters, and how he just looks more stressed and sweating, and the look around his eyes and everything, man. Like, man, he's so messed up through all of that. They did a great job with that.
Yeah. I have to
Yeah.
of what you're
So I
oh, my
was
bad.
watching. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I
No,
think
go for it.
it was like lagging a little bit, but yeah, I just real quickly had to go off of like when he goes over to the neighbor and just like beats the shit out of him. There's something about like the sound. So like high marks for the sound, but it is so uncomfortable watching that scene take place because it's just you can hear like I don't know whatever they did, but it feels like you're literally listening to like bones being like just broken.
Yeah, metal on skull, man. Just
Yes. And I'm pretty sure that's a continuous take too, is it not? Like he gets out of the car, we track him across the street, he beats the crap out of that guy, and then we cut back, and the camera doesn't cut back's the wrong choice of words. We follow him back, but the camera doesn't cut till he gets back to his girlfriend, which to film a scene of that kind of violence
Hmm.
without cutting is awesome. It's an accomplishment
100%.
and it makes it that much more visceral. It's so that scene stands out. It's good.
What about the
My
scene
wife
where
is
the
commenting that I love a continuous take,
yes, yep, I'm with her on there on that. I will say
which I do. I do.
I will say a couple of the scenes that I felt like also stood out to me is when they're doing the montage of like basically Jimmy's going through and he's cleaning up everyone associated with the heist. You get Frankie Carbone. I believe he's in the meat locker if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, and
that's the
then
truck.
yep, and then one of the guys he rolls out of the back of like the garbage truck and it just looks like just gnarly looking, just like it's just I don't know. That's probably what I would imagine. Someone's gonna be looking pretty nasty looking if you find them that way.
Oh yeah, and the one guy and his wife in that pink Cadillac.
Yep,
Oh my god, that Jimmy was so pissed about.
yep. And
Oh,
that's
geez.
talk about like a top tier song choice getting Layla, like the piano exit portion of it. It's I don't know. I
Yes.
just it's great.
So
It's a
this is the part
great
where
song
you
choice for a horrific scene.
Hmm.
I'm
so is this
lagging, aren't
not bad? Yeah, you're all right. But isn't this like the section where you want to talk about the
I?
Copacabana, the long cut or
We
the
have a
long shot?
storm blowing through right now, so I think it's affecting me.
You'll be okay. But
Oh, I was gonna put that in directing.
oh,
Um,
okay, that's fine.
we can put it in here now. I love that long take. I don't like. I saw some YouTubers just obsessing about that long take and how it's the greatest ever. There are a lot of long takes. I love all of them. I'm not going to say this is the greatest one ever, but I love the story behind that. This was take number 7 that ended up in the film.
Wow,
Mm.
They spent 3 days trying to get the shot,
damn.
which is insane, awesome. Um, but take number 6 was perfect, except the take ends with the comedian giving his lines. Right, the
Oh,
take
yep.
number 6 was perfect, but the comedian forgot his lines.
Oh no.
That's insane.
So they had 3 minutes of it basically, and then had to do take number 7 because he forgot the lines. But I just love that little bit about it. I love that long takes require the actors, everything. It's a dance. A long take is a dance. It is a performance. It's a stage play more than like, all right, we need 10 seconds of you doing this.
Hmm.
That's not a long take is you are in character for minutes. You got to have all your lines. That to me is the peak of film That's when the actor has to stay in character, the actor has to be memorized, has to remember move here at this time, do all that. I'm a sucker for them. I love them. I love them.
I will say though, like one of the key scenes I felt like was directed so well by Scorsese was the scene where um, Karen goes to see Jimmy at the store, and it's this like mounting tension. We obviously already know that things are going off the rails for both her and Henry, and the way that he directed that scene specifically is just it's so uncomfortable. Like, you know, we're basically in her position, knowing that like probably if she like makes one wrong move that she could end up getting clipped. But the way that Scorsese did that scene was just like exceptional.
Yeah, I could. It's all so good. The only thing that kind of jarred me on the editing that I wasn't a big fan of, but it wasn't like it ruined the movie for me. It's just a personal preference. Was there are a lot of I would consider unnecessary zooms, specifically on faces. It's like face, zoom, and cut. And then it would do the same thing again in the very next scene. And that to me, that's just a personal preference. But that is one of the things that I think adds to that pulp fiction genre vibe of the film
Yeah,
for me.
I could see it.
So that is, at first I was like, man, that's a lot of zooms. And then I just get into the movie and I don't really care. I'm having a good time with the film. But at first it was pretty jarring. So editing, special effects, Jonathan mentioned the blood effects, the violence is as convincing today as it was in the 90s.
I would agree.
There's nothing in this that I'm like, that looks good. Like as good as violence can look. It looks it looks good. The effects are excellent in this.
This movie definitely holds up. I think the longer time goes on, kind of a testament that like the effects and just a lot of you can see that this movie influenced so many other films that followed after it, especially with the choice to like do like the narration part of it. You see that kind of as a reoccurring theme, even in I don't know if you guys have seen The Irishman, but that's like another stylistic choice that um, I felt like he kind of called back to this film with that film.
I still need to watch that. It's on my list, and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
You better
Is that the
carve out
one that's like 4 hours long?
carve out a whole night for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
actually,
no,
this is a long film.
it's not that bad, but it's definitely one where I would say it's not as fast paced as Goodfellas or Casino for that matter. Just it's a little bit more like you're seeing the side of the life from early on all the way to like the very end, and this is like we don't need to go into detail on it, but you know that's a much different situation where somebody's a lot older by the time you know the movie wraps up.
Okay. Okay. So editing, special effects, uh, I'm a 5 because it's tight from beginning to end. Even if I don't necessarily care for zooms, that's that's a personal preference. It's not something that ruined the film or was poorly done. It was consistent throughout the film. It was a stylistic choice. I wouldn't have used it, but it's not something that was started at the beginning and abandoned at the end. It stayed consistent through the film. And yeah, I'm a 5 because the rest of it is real tight.
I'm a 4.
You guys already know where I'm going.
It is a
Yeah,
5.
yeah. I mean, there's just stylistic choices with his directing. Like one of the scenes that just comes to mind is when, you know, spoilers if you guys, you know, anyone out there who hasn't seen the movie, but
These
Tommy
are full
eventually.
spoilers.
Okay, okay. So
Okay.
eventually Tommy gets whacked and you see like the overhead shot of him like just laying there on the floor. Yep.
A blood pool.
Blood, yeah, blood
Oh,
pool comes out. Like the scene we were talking about earlier where you know the pink Cadillac scene where you see you know the kids walk up and they bear witness to you know double murder that's taken place. It's just very like very specific choices that were made in the directing style and the color palette throughout the film. I don't know if that's something you guys ever noticed, but there's definitely, you have like when they're out and about, and it's like a more like brighter color palette, and then obviously when it's like, you know, they're behind closed doors or they're doing things that aren't that great, seems like it just takes like a very dark tone to like whatever the scene is.
Oh yeah, once they get their second house after Henry gets out of prison, everything's like black and gold
Mm-hmm.
throughout a lot of the
Mhm.
house, and then
Yep.
you see Henry's closet, and it's got that cascading color set of suits.
Yep.
Like I was kind of envious of that. It's like, man, I wish I had some awesome suits
Yeah.
in that kind of scale of color. Like that was really cool.
Yeah.
No, I the one scene that stands out color palette for me is when they're burying the body.
Yep.
Because that
Red
is just
red and
red
black.
and black. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Yep. That one stands out for sure. That's one of the key elements why I I lean a 5 on this one. Um Script. This is one, so script called because was a lot of ad lib in this film. That I don't think I can count that against a script if there's some ad libbing. So, in fact, I think that probably helps this movie. Um, but I wanted to talk about the "you think I'm funny" scene.
Hmm.
Insane. I am on the edge of my seat in that because he's about to just flip out and do what he did to Spider.
It's tense as shit.
Is that right, Spider?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's so
Cartoon.
good. But so Joe Pesci based that on an interaction he had with a guy who was made in the mafia. And Joe Pesci was the one who said, "You're kind of funny." And the guy did that interaction with him in real life. And so Joe Pesci was on set recounting the story that happened to him. And Scorsese shared it with Joe was telling the story. Scorsese shared it with Ray, and those were the only two people in that scene who
Hmm.
knew what was happening. Everybody else was blind to this, and their reactions on the sidelines are genuine to what is happening.
It's very
And
magnetic.
it's and I Pesci, man, I keep cutting out. Joe Pesci was just he's insane in this film. He's so good in this film, but he is like I don't. The threat of violence with him is just always there.
It's imminent. It's just around
It's
the corner.
very scary.
So even when he's in a good mood, you're
Well,
just waiting for him. Yes, yes,
I
exactly,
I feel like I mean,
exactly.
it kind of goes off what you're saying
The
though, is that,
interviews.
is it kind of a little bit?
Some lag again. Yeah. I think
Go
he's all
ahead.
right.
You're still there?
Yeah, I'm getting. I don't know. I'm getting strong winds out here. I imagine that probably has to do with it. But uh, go ahead, Steven.
Oh no, I was just gonna say though, is that you kind of see that as like the precursor to like how quick he can flip a switch, right? So he's doing that bit where he's improvising, um, you know, like you think I'm funny, goes through that whole thing, but then, you know, pulls back the reins, you know, with Ray Liotta. However, you see this later on when it's like you could say something kind of sarcastic, or you're messing with him, and you could have a completely different reaction. Obviously with Spider, I mean, that's obviously significantly worse, or with Billy Bats is another one. It's just you see how unhinged these character, I mean, they're not, I mean, they're characters in the movie, but based on real people, just how unhinged these individuals are, you know.
Absolutely.
With the script, I mean, with so much ad lib that there is in here, it's pretty awesome. But like when it comes to script, I think most of what I like about it is the narration part of it from that end.
Yes.
But when it comes to the actual scenes, though, like when you see the part in the bar that lead up to them killing bats after they close out everything, like that whole thing, that whole interaction between Tommy and Bats, he's like, "No more shines, Billy," and he's like, "What?" He's like, "I said no more shines." Maybe you didn't hear it, but you've been away a long time. You
Hmm.
know, they didn't go tell you, I don't shine shoes anymore. And that whole dialogue between the two of them and how tense that shit got, man. That man, I love that part of the script, dude. That was so good.
I love. I mean, if I feel like Frank Vincent is such a key component of this movie because he's obviously his character basically kicks off the entire movie in a terrible way, but like he's part of that opening scene, and then it comes full circle with the shine box moment you were talking about.
Absolutely, man. The dialogue at the end, after Henry's in the witness protection program, where he's talking about how anything he wanted was like a phone call away, free cars, keys to his hideout, flats around the city,
Hmm.
like all that is just it's so well written, and to express like how shitty it is now that he doesn't have access to that anymore. It's pretty great.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
So after watching some interviews with Hill, uh, one thing I really appreciated was in the interviews, Hill speaks exactly like they do in the film,
Hmm.
Oh,
exactly like they do, and I thought that added like it's not something you necessarily know just watching the movie, but you go back, you interviews with Hill talking about these scenes, and it is the same kind of inflection, the same kind of sentence structure, same dropping the F bomb frequently. Like that is the way he talks.
Yeah.
And I really thought that added a layer of authenticity to the script that was fantastic. I'm a 5.
Yeah.
man, see, I put a 4, but now I feel like I got to change to a 5 on script. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll go 5 on script. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'll have to go 5 on this
Yeah,
one. It
I
is
was gonna
just
say we know
yeah.
what Steven is.
Yeah, you guys have nothing to worry about with this one. I'm just going along. I'm along for the ride, just like this movie. No, it's the script is just so fine tuned. There's so many like just iconic moments. I feel like a lot. I mean, I'm sure as you guys after seeing this movie maybe for the first time, you see a lot of this culturally has made its way into kind of cultural zeitgeist. Like skits and various movies have paid homage to it, and it's just cool to see the impact that this movie's had all these years later.
Yeah, I would agree. That's something I wasn't even thinking about, but the fact it is present, I don't want to say needed. It's talked about still and in all these other mediums from I believe it was the Animaniacs in the 90s
Hmm.
were doing scenes inspired by this. We'll get into the cultural significance, but yeah, the script, 5 for me. On to acting.
The acting is kick ass in this movie. I
Yep.
can't really say a bad thing about anybody in this movie in regards to
No.
acting. Like even Karen, like when she finds out about the other woman, Janice Rossi, and her flipping the
Yep.
fuck out and going to that building, jamming on there, harassing that woman, just going off, and then like jamming all the buttons and telling everybody and calling like the building manager and going off and being unhinged. Oh my god! And then like Henry laying in bed, waking up to her on top of the gun in his face, just ready to
Yes.
lose their
That's
shit.
another
And then him
great scene.
gaslighting the fuck out of her. Oh my gosh! And then fucking flipping her around and being like, "What the hell,
Yeah.
man?" There was a lot of intense moments throughout this movie, man. They're just crazy.
That scene's particular is excellent. Another example of tension. But that scene is kind of why Ray Liotta was So Ray wanted this part. Scorsese did not want him, which I don't know if you've seen Entourage. I've talked about it on a couple episodes because I'm rewatching it now. But I can't imagine being an actor on set when the director didn't want you as their first choice. I imagine that's immediately difficult.
Yeah.
But Ray auditioned. Scorsese didn't really care for it and had moved on. But Ray, during screening of some other film, Ray pushed his way through Scorsese's security to talk to Scorsese about, like, I really want to do this movie. And that was enough to convince Scorsese, because he saw how cool Ray was under pressure in a tense moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that and goes, that is exactly the way Hill acts in his story. He is calm and cool under multiple and various scenes of tension and pressure. And so that kind of convinced him to hire Ray for the role, which is precisely when he wakes up with his wife holding a gun to his head and he keeps his cool. He's just like, whoa, whoa. It's excellent. He does an amazing job of it. My favorite is, I've talked about him the whole show. Joe Pesci is insane in this movie.
Oh
And I
yeah.
know he's kind of the same character in Home Alone that I joked about later, just the PG version. But he carries that line of just insanity so well in this film. The people who knew, the real life people who these characters are based on, Joe Pesci is about a foot smaller and half the weight of the guy he was playing. The real
Oh,
life guy he was playing, significantly smaller. But everybody who knew the real guy walked away saying Joe captured him perfectly,
damn.
which is terrifying to think about. A giant of a man. They said he was like, he's well over 6 feet tall and twice the weight of Joe Pesci,
God.
which huge, huge
Yeah.
dude. But to think of that guy doing what Joe does throughout the film, but Joe himself carries this weight of menace and this threat with him in everything he does. He's cracking jokes, and I think they're hilarious. He's also like about to shoot the waiter, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's insane, and he much deserved the award for supporting actor in this film. I think he was so good.
Hell yeah. And you
Yeah.
always see like such a fun guy, but even like so like even when you see him with his mom, at the house, this just like that, just that casual, loving son mother dynamic, but the dude he's off his rocker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No, I definitely feel like Joe Pesci shines in this movie for sure. I feel like, he's such a key component of you really being able to see range with these actors, because I think Robert De Niro's performance is not, obviously it's dialed up. He's violent, but Joe Pesci's character obviously takes it to like a whole nother level. And then you have Ray Liotta, who plays a little more of like a laid back guy for the most part, kind of quiet, like the dinner scene. Um, I feel like actor in this movie, like Paul Sorvino, he carries like himself with like kind of like at the one of the scenes where they're talking about, he doesn't have to move fast because he doesn't have to, essentially. Like, he's just this very physically imposing guy, playing Paul in the movie as well. But yeah, it's great. Like, the cast in this is Rocco. Um, like, I don't know, they feel so like the actors and actresses in this film. I couldn't picture anyone else portraying these characters, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they did a great job with the casting.
Agreed.
I think they nailed it on casting. The only other thing that I was thinking of while we were talking was, I mentioned that I'm rewatching Entourage as I'm going through this. So I was surprised to see that his girlfriend in this movie, um, Sandy,
Okay.
is played by Debbie Mazar,
Yep.
who is actually in Entourage as a PR person for the actor in Entourage.
Oh, no way.
So, yes, which was 2003, 2005. So 10, 15 years after this, she's playing a PR rep on a TV show. And I see her in this, and I was like, no way.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah.
But
She's
the
the second
acting,
girlfriend with the 8 balls.
the acting for me, the acting's a 5 in this. The performances are amazing.
Yep. One thing I just wanted to point out is I believe 27 actors and actresses were selected for The Sopranos after this film. So it's crazy because in a way, I look at this and it's like, as much as I hold Goodfellas in high regards, the same way that I hold The Sopranos, I feel like if you wouldn't have one without the other, essentially.
Mm, that's that's interesting. I still need to go back and watch The Sopranos.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never like watched the whole thing. But it's funny that Spider, who gets shot and killed in here, Michael Imperioli,
Yep.
is like one of the main guys in The Sopranos. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like 5 on acting, so 5 all day.
All right. We're fives across the board for the acting, in agreement there. So the direction, I already talked about. I'm a sucker for the long takes, the long shots. When a director chooses to do that, it automatically elevates a film for me. I automatically love it. Not just love the film, usually love the shot that they're going for. It adds a level to accomplish it. It adds in a level of skill to what they're doing. It's pretty easy to keep a static camera, quick takes, do that. That's, I don't want to say easy. Making movies not easy, but compared to trying to get a 3-minute continuous take that moves from the street into the interior of a building, not an easy thing to do. Lots of moving parts in that. That's impressive. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. See, I told you, I think my internet's cutting because of a storm. We got a storm going through right now.
Yeah.
The choice to, I've mentioned it a couple times. It's like it's film noir ish with that Pulp Fiction attitude where everything is casual, ultra violent, but we're still having a good time. You know, that attitude to approach this movie, I think, works really well. That's a decision that Scorsese had to make going into this. Was he going to take it super serious in Godfather, or do something a little different with it? And I think doing something a little different with it works in this case. I like it. The starting with them with the, who are they killing in the trunk?
Oh, Billy Bats.
Yeah, killing Billy in the trunk. Starting with that and then going back and then getting to that scene. It's an interesting choice, but it works for this film. It kind of hooks you at the beginning. I was like, oh, this is what I'm getting into. This stands out to me. I know a lot of people think Scorsese has done better since. I'm not going to argue that right now. I would have to watch some of those other movies. I do think this one is a powerhouse performance from a director. I think he nails the vibe, he nails the atmosphere, the story, the narrative. He pulls all of those pieces together. Apparently, he was so meticulous on set that he would redo Ray Liotta's tie himself if it didn't look correctly tied. Like if an actor did not look professional enough for a mob person, Scorsese would fix it. Like that's the kind of attention to detail that he put into this film, and I think it shows.
I would agree with that.
I don't have much to say on direction. This is always one of my worst sections. So you go ahead, Steven. Say what you want to say, buddy.
um, I mean, there's just so many iconic scenes in this film, and I feel like it was very like with between like the editing, the directing, the music choices, having the right people and pivotal scenes. I feel like it's a culmination of all of that. There's just we touched on a lot of like the just pivotal scenes that take place throughout the film. um, the one that I really liked is like when Tommy is being made, and they reference it's like basically yeah, yep. So like it's like a callback when they mention he's a good fella. Comes full like a full circle moment. You get why they're that's the film's called why it's called. Um,
Yeah.
one scene that I did want to mention was a scene where after they kill Billy Bats and they go over to Tommy's mom's place. So it's a very organic conversation. It's almost like you could put yourself in that position, obviously without the the murder, but like you could put yourself in that position where it's like his mom's warm, inviting, naive. I mean, she may or may not know what he does, but um, there's something just so organic about that conversation and just the direction of where it goes. And fun fact, that's actually Martin Scorsese's mom in real life. Who
Oh, no way.
yeah, yep,
Oh
yep,
wow.
yep. So his parents showed up in quite a few of his films. So it's pretty cool to see that little like I don't want to say an Easter egg, but that cameo.
That's cool.
Speaking of cameos, I forgot to bring this up on the acting. At the end, when Hill is speaking to the FBI and going into witness protection,
Hmm.
that is the actual FBI agent who took in the real life Hill.
No shit.
I didn't know
Yes.
that. That's
At
crazy.
least according to
Damn.
the random YouTube video I watched that was going
Yeah.
over it. Apparently that
That's
was
cool.
the real FBI agent, which I think that's super cool. But when it comes to the acting, we did acting. Direction, I am a 5 on this film. There were not just the one long take, there are multiple that people obsess about the one at the Copacabana. I personally love that one of him beating the guy in the driveway. I think that one is so good. So I'm a 5 on that. I'm a 5 on the direction.
I'm gonna go on 4 with direction, especially because of like that whole helicopter paranoia set.
Oh yeah.
That whole thing. From how things got more intense, crazier with him trying to coordinate everything, and then the music, and then how that kind of ramps it up. How each song with each different section of him going from here to here, then here to here, and there to there. Before they finally get pegged because of the stupid babysitter dialing out from the house one after he told
Yeah.
her not to do that shit.
Yeah. She had
Let
to
her
go
do, I'll
back
do
for.
my lucky hat.
I know. I was just about to
Like,
say
fuck
it.
your
She had to
hat,
go
dude.
back for her fuck hat.
Oh, lame as hell. But yeah, 4 on direction.
5, 5, and 4 for that. Steven, I assume you're a
Yeah.
5 again.
Yeah. Yep. No surprises there.
Big high
All right.
five.
Do you want to add anything to it, or are you good?
I mean, it's just I can't emphasize enough just how important this movie is to me. I feel like there's films that obviously we see over time and just we see them in passing or they're like favorites or whatever, but this one left such a huge impact on me, especially discovering my love for film. And I just always have to show my appreciation and love for this film as a whole. And I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it or Martin Scorsese's films in general to get out there and take a look at some of the films that he's directed.
Absolutely. Into then the it factor, the cultural significance. So we already kind of touched on this a little bit. Stephen, you had some things to say. Do you want to kick us off on the cultural significance?
I mean, this was such a landmark. Like, there's so many quotable lines from this movie that for a fact, like, and I'm sure you guys have seen them in one way or another, but I believe that there was an SNL skit where they made fun of like they kind of riffed on when they're going through the club and naming every person, like when they're identifying like each of the wise guys in the club. They do a riff on that, and it's fucking hilarious. But it just goes to show just how impactful this movie was. And I know that there's dozens of films that have drawn from certain scenes or directing choices or stylistic choices from this movie.
Absolutely. I'm not as well versed in mob movies, uh, but there were scenes in this film that I recognize. I mean, many of the shots of Ray Liotta laughing in this movie are turned into memes,
Mm-hmm.
and you see those
Yep.
everywhere. Like that still exists. That's still out there. People may not know this is from Goodfellas, but they're out there sharing it. They're out there posting it. It's still, he does have a pretty distinct look when he is laughing in this film.
The Sim
Very open mouthed.
the Simpsons was another one that paid homage to this. Trying to see what other. I know we talked about The Sopranos. I feel like that's like the whole basis behind it. Um, Trying to see what else. I mean, there was an Animaniacs bit. Maybe that's dating things a little bit, but I remember that they paid homage to that as well. So it's just you get homages in wide variety.
Heck
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Um,
It was also. Oh, Jonathan, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when it comes to mob films, I mean, Godfather was kind of like the big set off that really set the stage, to for Goodfellas to be able to come what it was, and then all the other films that have come after that we've seen that have been made. I don't know. I can't coordinate my thoughts very well right now. I've been sick for a couple days, so I'm like, bro. But like it's really huge impact in like what people think about gangster films and how hardcore it is to be in that life, and what it takes to really make those connections and to be in the underworld and how dark it can be. Um, so I think that had like a really big impact, not just in film but just in culture in general.
Yeah. The reviews for this are overwhelmingly positive, but can't talk about cultural significance without also addressing box office, which is good news for this film. It grossed 6.3 million on the opening weekend, winning the top spot. But what's big is that the second weekend was 5.9 million, falling just 8%, which is huge nowadays. To fall 8% from weekend to weekend is a big deal. Uh, it's 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you take that into account, Metacritic gives it a 92 out of 100. Roger Ebert gave it full force 4 stars, saying no finer film has ever been made about organized crime, not even The Godfather.
I'd agree with that.
Wow.
So it was well received across the board. Uh, in 2014, What Culture included Joe Pesci's role in the top 10 most convincing movie psychopaths. And I'm with him on that one. So
Nice.
I do, I'm going to say it's a 4 on cultural significance because I do think the mob aspect of this film narrows the audience. So it has a pretty wide cultural significance. It's great for a mob movie, but I think it's a great movie. But I think because it's a mob movie, it doesn't have quite the reach that it would have not being so, if that
Could
makes sense.
could you also add to that? I think for some, depending on like your level of comfort when it comes to watching films, but I feel like for some, I mean, it's a pretty graphic movie, a lot of
Yeah.
violence. It's not. I mean, you already have like the mafia side of things, and that may or may not be like a viewer's preference when it comes to film. But then you add in that layer of violence, and like, there's kind of like some pretty graphic moments throughout the film. Um, I feel like you could almost make an argument for that it might off put some people.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that.
Well, my score as far as the factor goes, I'm at a 4.
4-4 and
5.
all right. So here it is. The how entertained were you? This category is the category where we say this is what most people say when they review a movie. So if you watch a movie and you say, it's 4 out of 5, it'd be
Mhm.
8 out of 10 here. Okay. This is that gut feeling the movie gives you. What is it out of 10? So this is kind of where you can wrap up, give your final thoughts on it, your how entertained, and then we'll get our group average after we all go. So, Steven, as the guest, do you want to go first on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind
Okay.
of just concluding thoughts on the film, essentially.
Yep. And your overall entertainment, which, I mean, I have a pretty good idea what it is, but
I would give this the highest marks for this film. Yep. So 10 out of 10. This, like I said, this movie holds a lot of like just personal ties to it, just with how much I love this film. And um, I'd probably say out of all the movies that I've seen, this one has the most rewatchability. And like I said, it opened up my eyes to just seeing that there's obviously there's a wide variety of film, but when you really see what else is out there, like, no, it opened my eye to like what type of movies are out there. It made me discover my love for film, and really kind of kicked off like discovering other Martin Scorsese films, The Sopranos, all of that as a result of this movie. So can't recommend it enough.
Right on.
Jonathan, you
Um,
up?
yeah, I like this movie a lot. 10 has got to be like absolute perfection, which it's hard for me to say that for anything. So I'm sitting at a 9 on my
I don't think
entertainment.
you've scored anything at 10 yet, have you?
I don't think I have.
Could today be that day?
Can Steven persuade you?
Yeah,
I gotta.
listen.
I would have to go back and check. I'm gonna check our list while you go ahead and give your final thoughts.
This is something that like me and a lot of my friends that I grew up with back in Arkansas, like we've all seen this film. We watched it a bunch of times. We know it kicks ass, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone and everyone to watch because it is an absolute banger of a film. I have a hard time trying to give anything a 10. So 9 is where I sit on that. I
Damn
think
it.
that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I'm just messing.
It's all good. It is what it is. But yeah, this is definitely one that, if you got the time and you have people who are invested who really want to hang out and watch a good film, this would definitely be one of those films.
Jonathan, you have scored 5 10s.
Oh, have I?
Okay. So you're ready to hear what you gave 10s.
Uh-oh.
You might change your score to Goodfellas after you hear this. You want to hear?
Yeah, let's do it.
The Substance. I agree with you there. 10. That's
Yes.
a 10. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Fuck yes.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978.
Okay.
That was a pretty damn cool film.
Yep. I love that movie. And The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
That movie rocked my world. That was an intense one. That mental mess you up kind of thing. That was fuck yeah.
That was a great film. You've given just about as many 9s, so I'm not going to rake you over the coals for that.
Okay.
Because I do. This is a movie that I think my enjoyment will grow with time. Unfortunately, I do have to say right now I'm actually lower than Jonathan. I'm an 8 on it.
Wow.
And it's not. This is coming at it from pure enjoyment factor. Is I still struggle at the beginning of the film Second time was much better for me. So it came up from a 7 to an 8. But I still struggle trying to keep track of who's who and
That's
how
fair.
they operate in the machine. And that, I mean, it's a personal problem. I can't remember names. Reading books, I love reading books, but I can never remember. It's a who's this character? What
Yeah.
chapter were they? It's a challenge. Okay, so I struggle with that, and it does affect me when it comes to movies. That's why, like movies like The Substance, 2 characters, and they're really easy for me to follow. I love it. Or movies like Friday the 13th, the names don't matter. They're just there to add to the body count.
They really don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But this movie, there's a lot of characters who are important, and I struggle fully grasping how they all interact with each other and what their significance means. And that is not docking the way it is put together. The way it is put together is excellent, but I am aware of my own capabilities of tracking names and characters and know that I need to see this again. And then those pieces are going to start to fall into place. And then I might change my overall entertainment score. But as of right now, I couldn't remember the name of Billy in the trunk. And I'm still kind of, is Billy the guy they beat up at the bar?
Yes.
And they thought they killed him. They put him in the trunk, and then they
Yep.
hear him rattling around and kill him. And that's also because of him, Joe Pesci gets killed, right?
Yep.
Correct.
See,
Yeah,
I
'cause
did
Bats
it.
was a made man.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
did
touch a
not
made
realize
man
that the first time.
without consent.
Yeah, the first time I was like, why is Joe dead? But second time I picked up on it. So those are the little things that I think it's a testament to how well this movie is made. There are all these little pieces that work together. And that's why I gave it high marks on everything else. It's when it comes to the entertainment value, I struggle to follow it because personally I'm terrible at names and characters. So that's my own fault. But yeah, this is probably my second favorite mob movie. I am a sucker. I love The Untouchables.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I love that film. That is my top mob film. So this is probably number 2 to that. I would definitely say I really enjoyed this movie. It does make me want to watch The Untouchables again, which bounce back between. Another fun shot is the Coca Cabana shot was inspired by the Steadicam long take in Untouchables. So that's another one of those. But yep, I'm gonna 8 on this. So our final, add it all up together. Add it all up together. Where are we at on this?
I'm a 44 total.
Steven's math is really easy.
Listen, the next time we get around to hopefully doing another one of these, like I'll at least make a more compelling case.
No, that is perfectly fine. I've had movies when we haven't an episode on Psycho, but we did a back before we were a
Oh,
podcast. Psycho is straight across the board for me.
is that considered your favorite movie then?
Oh, that's my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
I think it's a flawless film.
Goodfellas would be the equivalent for me for you for Psycho.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I think Psycho is a flawless film. I was surprised recording last year's Halloween. I also think The Fly from Cronenberg is a pretty flawless film as well. That one really stands up there. But yeah, so for me, I'm a 46. I'm a little bit below. So we have Jonathan. You are 44.
Yep.
Steven is a 50. Let me get this average here. So 44 plus 50 plus 46 equals
Numbers.
140 divided by 3. That puts it at a 46.66666.
Oh,
Round
God.
that up.
Jonathan, are you sure you don't want to change your score?
Yeah, we'll round that up to 47.
Oh, thank God.
Which is a comfortable 4.5 out of 5 stars. So for our average score, 4.5 out of 5, 47 out of 50. And that's kind of what we do, is we're trying to give some weight behind why a movie might be scored 4.5 stars out of 5. And we've broken it down into all these categories, talked about it from different perspectives, and why we think this hits 45 or the 47 out of 50.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely, Tim, go watch Godfather. At least the first two. A lot of people bag on the third one, saying that it's kind of crap, but
This
I
one
they
beat
watched all of them.
this movie beat the third Godfather in 1990 at the box office.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not
that
surprising at all.
I would hope so.
But definitely watch the first two, if
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
So that takes us to any other thoughts? Are we ready to wrap this up? Is this the end?
It looks like we had a couple of recommendations as well in some of the comments from our live stream on YouTube from
Yeah.
Wes217, The Freshman with Matthew Broderick as being a tame mafia movie, and then also The Firm with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
I have seen neither of those
Check them
because
out.
Mafia is not really a go-to for me. So
Tim, your watch list keeps getting bigger and bigger now.
it does.
Or always
So
have
we
stuff.
started this. I've had a lot of fun. Steven, I don't know. Have you signed up for the Halloween series yet?
I believe was that the folk horror?
Yeah.
I said I'm available for a couple of them. I think we were
Okay.
talking about, yeah, but you let me know if there's one that you got space for. I think maybe one of them was Blair Witch. Maybe.
Yes, that's right. I think
Okay.
you did tell me that. Yes, but I've really kind of gotten in. We started doing 13 Nights of Halloween because I started to discover horror on my own. Kind of grew up super sheltered from it all and started to discover and really appreciate the good, the bad, and the ugly of horror. All of it, just as a genre, is fantastic. So that's why we kind of have our love letter to horror in October, but we already started recording it because it takes forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh.
it's been eventful in my small town tonight. But that's why mob movies, I haven't really gotten to a lot of them. Untouchables, Godfather, this isn't there like a mob monster movie? What is that?
I mean, if you're looking for recommendations, I'd throw Casino, Mean Streets in there. Those are good options.
Yep, I haven't seen either of those either. So yeah, that's definitely something. I'm not opposed to getting into it, but definitely. So Stephen, again, thank you for joining us. Do you want to plug who you are, where people can find you, what you do?
I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
You guys can find me at After Hours Video on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. And then I'm also a host on Beyond the Blood podcast as well. You can find me on there.
Cool.
Which I just saw the Instagram went up today.
Working around the clock.
Yeah. Awesome. Find him there. I did an episode with him talking about Pet Sematary 2. Had a great time hanging out with those guys. So definitely head over, check out Beyond the Blood. And then if you like that, all of us are going to be back at the end of the month, the last day of the month at 8 p.m. for the Dread broadcast. It'll be a 2-hour live stream roundtable. Currently have about 9 guests lined up, including a special guest that we haven't disclosed yet, but a special guest lined up just to talk about the top headlines in horror for this month, the month of May. So we'll cover everything from physical media releases, books, movies, all of it, what's in theaters, what's making an impact on the box office, what it means for the genre of horror as well. So super excited to kick that off. Got a great start to it. Really excited to see how that goes. So mark your calendars for that. And then Jonathan, you ready?
Let's do this.
That's a wrap on our Goodfellas episode. Huge thanks to everyone who turned in, provided those comments. Drop those scores if you're joining us. But thank you for joining the conversation.
This movie is a reminder of why we do this, the power of well-crafted stories, the impact of unforgettable performances, and the thrill of talking about it all with good friends.
Whether you're a wise guy for life or just catching this classic for the first time like me, we hope you enjoyed the ride.
And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and drop your scores in the comments. We want to know if this one still hits as hard as it did in 1990.
And thanks again to our guest, Steven, from After Hours Video for joining us.
And remember, this is The Average, where the real review happens with your friends.
See ya.
Bye.